All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. Listen, it's going to be your SITREP. It's Monday at 9/26/2022, and it is 11 a.m. Central Time coming to you from the great state of Texas. And so without further ado, let's hop over here to our board. Kicking it off in Skyglass. Right now, we're looking at about 454 mil aircraft up, and that is around the world, not just the U.S. Quite busy, actually, and we're going to see an uptick in movement right here across the panhandle of Florida as the storm comes through. Latest intel is actually saying that they're expecting this thing to be a Cat 4 when it arrives, which is not a shocker. But we're going to take a closer look at the weather radar in just a minute, just to show you some of the data points that are coming across right now that I think are going to kind of send this thing across pretty quickly. But we'll keep our eye on it again, as always. Not a good situation anytime you get a hurricane here in the Gulf of Mexico, because the water temps here are insanely hot, or warm, should I say, and it just is it just feeds that machine. So, all right, if we look at what we've got up right now, we've got some about 45 of the techs. Those are trainers. We get down a little further, T-38s, another 19. Let's kind of give you a flavor of where we are relative to the training aircraft that are up. Now, there are a few that kind of stand out, like this Q4. This one will be, we'll look at that here in just a second. It's going to be that Forte 10, I believe it is, out over the Black Sea. And, well, let's just kick it off. Let's get into our watch list here real fast and talk about what's going on. Now, if I get disconnected for some crazy reason, I will do my best. I'm going to continue to record it, but if I have to replay it, I will. We are getting peppered pretty hard with the cyber attack stuff, and it knocked me offline on Friday. And you'll see, we're going to show it here in a minute. So again, if this thing gets disconnected, I am recording it, and I will repost it so it's a clean burn. Okay. All right, over here to the watch list real fast. As you can see, this is the new color. I love it, of the watch list. Now, there is a beta that's out that I'm driving right now, but very, very cool, and a lot easier for me to read, especially when I'm looking at this little screen here for my OBS project, which is my streamer. Anyway, nonetheless, we got to get across here in the U.S. You can see got a little Army Intel bird. That's one of those peacocks, right? That's the one that flies around. It's got the array of antennas all over it, but running a little route right there in El Paso. We got an R135 that's up. And notice that we do have some, well, we do have an E6 TACAMO. That last one, that 737 we looked at, as well as this one, is nuclear security. They're flying around a lot lately. Kind of an interesting deal, but definitely something they're worried about, I think. And then we've got Homeland Security, as always. That's up there in kind of south of, looks like kind of south of Detroit from what I am looking at. But again, another one. They seem to be up and about up there on the northern end of the U.S. And as I spin us around out of control, let's kind of slide around here. Now, we do have a couple 757-200s up right now, as you can see in the D.C. area. Those will be Air Force. And then, of course, we've got some of the weatherbirds up over Florida. As you can see that, and P3 coming back inbound. Looks like that was down checking that hurricane stuff. But those 757s, one looks to be a blue and white, and that's going to be that P3 that we're talking, Noah. But the 757s we're talking about up over DC, one of them's a whitetail. That's Air Force. And those are typically the ones that go across and talk to when we have some kind of crisis going on. All right, now over to this area. Notice the amount of traffic up and where it's located, and the type of aircraft. A lot of spy birds. Notice that tight circle. That's man in the middle grabbing data off of people's cell phones there in the region, running stuff all the way up over that looks to be Estonia. And again, right along that borderline, there's that tight circle right here. That's Belarus that they're all kind of pushing to the edge on. R135 and E3. So we got the NATO birds that are up, as well as that R135 is a spy. I say spy, it's a recon aircraft. German Air Force got some stuff up too. Of course, there's spy balloons. A little P8 over England. That's a Sub Hunter. And then this one here, that's just another one of the NATO birds. Now, if I'm trying to get in a little closer and tighter on this, you can't really see it because it's can't get the right angle on it, but it is doing that man in the middle spin right there over Spain. Um, watch that. Nothing really else over from a watch list perspective. Now let's get into the heavy lifts. Again, we are really, really focused on that border area up on the northern side near Belarus, it looks like. Get into the heavy lifts. You can see a little active. This is the last 24-hour tracks. C-17, C-130s. Those are going to be your logistics birds and troop movers. Notice we got some stuff headed into Pakistan. Very important. Pay attention to that because it's about to be a failed state. That is not good. That is a nuclear country. Okay. Now, and I know I'm flying through this, so just pay attention. That's a data point. We'll come back to it. All right. Notice Europe is starting to spread out. We got stuff all the way down into Malta, into the toe, kind of a southern Italy side. And all the way up here, notice we got some deliveries taking place right along that border area. That's going to come back here in a little bit when we start talking about some of the news and the things that are being delivered. Okay. So pay attention to that. And let's see what we've got. Again, this one over Malta is important because Tripoli, right there, Libya, the Russians are occupying that area after Benghazi. Actually, they're in Benghazi. That's why that's important. Now, we get over here to the U.S. Notice we do have a lot of stuff. You'll see it moving out of Florida, headed northbound. That's not uncommon. It's because of the storm that's coming through. They're getting them out of harm's way. And then, of course, the DC area is very chock full. Again, these are heavy lifts and things we need to pay attention to. But that's probably moving because of the storms. Now, this stuff in Texas or Oklahoma, sorry, all looks to be headed westbound. Like they're moving a bunch of assets out to the West Coast side of the house. Maybe we'll continue to watch it, and then you can see some things coming inbound. But yeah, DC is always pretty busy. So let's look at the refuelers here. We do have one. Looked like it punched out of the U.S. into Hawaii. Nothing. Now this isn't refuelers. We're still looking at the heavies. Nothing really out over the Pacific last 24 hours from a heavy lift perspective. Get into the air refuelers. This kind of paints and tells a story. Again, just notice that we've got air refuelers. That would be a good indicator of fighters right up on the border in that general area. And then, again, another border location. Notice here they've got some air refueling going on right over close to Tripoli. That's because that area is got a lot of unrest right now politically. And so, again, Russia is in the mix right there, too. So, and then this, we got an air refueler right there on that Iraq-Syria border, and then some stuff going out over the Mediterranean as well as the Persian Gulf there. Yeah, very interesting. Now, pay attention to this one because there's something now. I see these all bugging out. That's because of the storm. They're all headed northbound. Probably run up to Norfolk, Virginia, or Pax River in that general area is probably where they're headed. But they're getting out of town here. All right, and so that's what we're looking at there. Now, these others up here are kind of normal. This one is the one. Remember, we just watched the same launch out of central Oklahoma, but watch the border area. We've been watching air refuelers hanging out around that border, which would indicate we got fighters down near the border. And so I don't know if they're feeding trainers or if we got a threat at the southern border. But again, just pay close attention to that. Okay. All right, back over to our main board. We will transition from this. We got a lot of ground to cover today. The world is getting crazy, and we're going to look at it in more detail. Now, this is one more of our reconnaissance birds. It last flew today early in the morning, and that's their time. So this is at Constanta. It looks like it's stationed there, but this is Brio 68. You guys may remember this is one of those aircraft that has got an array of equipment on it. It is a reconnaissance bird, much like the R-135, grabbing data. It is there because of the Russian movement and assets that are going here in Moldova. And so we'll just pay close attention to that one. We are clearly painting pictures in terms of assets. That is a big threat because we got troops in Romania and we got them down here in Bulgaria, here at Sofia, as well as in Hungary, in Budapest or just outside of Budapest. So pay attention to that. Now, remember, too, that we had right here in Serbia, this is where We just had some unrest going on, but we also had the Chinese roll in with their Y-20, which is like our C-17 heavy lift, a whole bunch of missile defense systems into Serbia. All right. But this area, Croatia, Kosovo, Bosnia, these are all names that we've heard in the last 20 years about, things going hot over there. And probably will happen again if I had to guess. So, all right, this is going to be that Forte 10 we were talking about. Notice it's just going back and forth here over the Black Sea. Now, I'm showing you in this one because for some reason, when I'm in Skyglass, it actually shows it out over Russia. And I don't think that's accurate because Russia would shoot that thing out of the sky. And so I'm just kind of putting it back in on this one. But it's a data point for us, okay? All right. Talk weather just for a brief minute. This is just for the folks out near Sacramento, Redding, California. This is a firebox right here. Just notice this is one of the NOAA weather birds that's kind of bumping in and out of that area. Probably messing around with the weather, if I had to guess, trying to create some rain. Maybe, I don't know, but a lot of sloppy flying there, to say the least. But again, it's just a data point for those folks that were watching the weather modification piece. Now, another piece, as we look at the weather aspect of it, this one I caught yesterday or last night. I actually just wanted to check out what was going on at the southern pole because we've had a lot of aircraft that have been flying down military-wise into the southern point of South America. And so I thought, well, what's going on down in at the South Pole side of the house in Antarctica? We have looks like some storm rolling through here, but nonetheless, just look at the temp down there. It's a negative 72 degree Fahrenheit, which is insane. That is insane. But again, just a data point. We'll get back to the board here, but I just want to point that out as we're talking about weather stuff. Okay. Now, we talk about the little wheel spinning on your feed as we watch the show from time to time. This is why, notice that the U.S. is getting peppered. This is going to be one of the faces of the war as we get into it. It will increase as war happens for sure. If anything, they may even take us offline and knock out some of our data centers, power. There's all kinds of different things from the grid that are vulnerable from cyber attack aspect. But you can see this is why, internet connection keeps kind of spinning. It's hitting this big data center here in the center of the United States. Okay. All right, over here to Flashbang. And looks like doesn't have much coming other than he's got the Atlanta Braves coming in the White House today. I'm sure they're thrilled about that one. And some other, I don't know, competition council or something. I think this is a joke right here. As family, how to save families money and lower costs. New actions. Yes. Because everything else so far has worked wonderfully, right? Yeah, bohica, I think, is the term the Navy guys use for that, right? All right, let's get over here to our flight. This is going to be the NOTAM, just to see what is going on. Now, we just had a launch. We'll talk a little bit more about that from North Korea. It actually went up over the Sea of Japan. It went 60 kilometers up, and it was traveling at about Mach 5. And now this is the interesting thing is that it looked like there was another test that took place because I caught this last night on my phone app and noticed this NOTAM line that just runs straight south down. I mean, all the way down here, almost into like the Philippines, I guess. But just another data point. A lot of stuff going on over there. This looks to be a launch line, if I had to guess, just because of the length of the line. And it went away. It's not there now, but it looks like somebody launched something out of here that went down south again, down here past the Philippines, really, into this area. So just pay close attention to that. A lot of exercises going on, especially around this island just outside of Taiwan. And then this right here is, let me just double check. I don't think that's U.S. It could be air exercise take place. Airspace is actually blocked over that general area. And of course, around South Korea up here in the Yellow Sea, a lot of stuff going on. Again, we're going to look closer at some of the stuff that's happening from a China perspective. Now let's back up. We can look at the U.S. real fast. It's not hasn't changed too much other than this is hurricane activity, kind of a weird, strange NOTAM. But this is actually going to be part of that hurricane tracking for NOAA as that storm comes into the area. Of course, we've got these boxes here that are warning boxes off of the East Coast. And we got the Senior Living Center there. It's a TFR. Get over to Europe here just so you could see this standpoint. Very, very busy. The only spot that doesn't really have anything going on right now is Germany. But you can see all of the boxes right up against the border for Belarus, Lithuania, etc., Estonia. I mean, this is all, everything is, I think we are definitely on the brink of this stuff going hot. Now, how quickly will NATO get engaged? I guess that just is it's determined by how hot this actually gets, I guess. But notice we do have that box over northern UK. That's actually exercise, NATO exercises. We get up here, same thing here. You've got some stuff going on in Finland and then some stuff going on in Russia, as well as all of this stuff over here in Russia as well. Okay. All right, let's move on to this side of it. Now, this is going to be the live map. We will watch this very closely because this is probably one of the better war maps as we watch the data come in from the reports on the ground. But these are air, I guess, sirens. So looks like they had some shots come in over the bow here. We've seen them go all the way out here to the coast or to the not coast, but the borderline. Several times now, but not today. It looks like so. These are Russian troops up here as well as here, and we will continue to watch that. And then, of course, Crimea. Now, remember, they're pushing nukes into Crimea as well as up here into Belarus in this general area. And we know over here and into this Kaliningrad, as I've been mispronouncing it in the past and leaving out another extra couple letters, but Kaliningrad, yeah, and this is Russia, and this is a Russian port. And we're going to take a closer look now at what's sitting out here in this general area. But even Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, all these guys are starting to shut their borders down because they've got a lot of Russians trying to get across the border because they don't want to go to war. So at least that's the rumor. So we will find out how much truth there is to that. Now, this is what's going on over here right now. You can see it's very, very busy, very active. These are the military NATO ships. There's going to be U.S. stuff in here, Germany, the U.K., Belgium, Netherlands. I mean, just about every NATO nation and their brother is mixed into all of this. Notice a lot of them are still sitting in the ports, but we have a lot more out here in the sea, and that could be tied because there is an exercise going on here, okay? So we'll continue to watch it. Now, this is Kaliningrad. This is, again, this is a Russian port. I don't see much going on here other than we do have some warships in the direct area that are non-Russian. All right, across here. So we'll continue to watch it and monitor that area. And we'll take a look at some of the other areas too here on the water in just a minute, okay? All right, on to the news. Let's see what is going on. This is kind of some interesting data points for you. U.S. Air Force puts HARMS. That's going to be an acronym. I don't know what off the top of my head that means. I probably should have looked at it. But they put them on the MiG-29s. It looks like they've updated them so that they can carry U.S. ordnance, I think is what that really means at the end of the day. Cruise missiles on C-130s and then cargo and B-52s, which is very unusual. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but anyway, this is what's been going on. When we were looking at the map and I said these are deliveries that look to be taking place, I think this is what is starting to happen. They're actually starting to get all these things pushed into the region that have been updated so that they can carry U.S. ordnance, etc. Okay. Now, here's another one. Just a data point, but again, I think the threat is very real, and so does this U.S. commander. Nuclear war is possible for the first time since the Cold War. Yeah, I think we're already kind of getting into the whole Cuban Bay of Pigs kind of thing where things are getting ready to get really, really jiggy. Let's just say that, okay? And so this guy is just basically reiterating the possibility that we are very, very close to a nuclear war for sure. Okay. Now, White House has sent multiple nuclear warnings to the Kremlin via back channels. Of course, we always know they always keep the back channels open. We know that Biden is definitely not talking to Putin, nor is Putin talking to Biden. Either way. So, yeah, kind of chilly there, isn't it? And then here we go. Putin's war and his rule are in trouble. They're saying that Russia mobilization is an epic disaster. Um, we'll see what happens. I think a lot of this is propaganda. We have to be very careful with the data that's being pushed out there right now because, as we see with our own eyes, it is not going in Ukraine's favor. In fact, Russia is just beating the snot out of them with very little effort, and that effort is about to be stepped up. I will say this. If this is actual real content and they're having a problem recruiting people, that probably increases the probability of a nuclear war happening because Russia is not going to go down. In fact, we know they're part of the last days in the Bible from Gog Magog. The U.S. is not, and so I think if they get backed into a corner, they will go nuclear, and that's something we need to pay close attention to. So if they start to lose in Ukraine, they will probably go nuclear. All right. If NATO comes in and Russia starts to take pretty heavy hits, they will probably go nuclear. Like I said, they have that option on the table, as do we. But here's another data point for you. Finland, we just talked about this, is shutting down its borders with Russia as military-age men flee. Yeah, I can imagine. You do have probably folks that don't want their kids going to war, just like we do if a draft comes into play. This is basically the draft. The mobilization is him drafting folks. Now, remember, the early numbers were showing about 300,000, and it has since been bumped to 1.2 million. And here we go again. Here's some initial launch of the men for Russian mobilization arrive at military bases. You can see them coming in on the buses. That's kind of a light load right there, but it is happening. All right. We'll pay close attention to it. Reminds you of Kilroy from Vietnam, right? The dude peeking over the fence. Okay. Kilroy was here. Okay. BreakingDefense.com. To keep arming Ukraine, Norway may drop munition stocks below required levels. I think all of NATO is starting to see this. We're pumping so much stuff into Ukraine, it's not moving the needle, but what it is doing is depleting our own stocks. The U.S., in some cases, have given so much stuff to the Ukraine that it's going to take us 7 years to replenish it. The war will be long over before we could ever get that replenishment level done, okay? This is just another data point that everybody's pushing stuff in and it's leaving themselves short. And if they get pulled into the war, they're not going to have the equipment because we gave it to the Ukrainians. Okay. Well, the deep state has really put us all in a pickle, haven't they? Okay. North Korea fires ballistic missiles ahead of VP Kamala Harris's visit to South. So it looks like Bob Marley is headed to South Korea. And again, we looked at that missile launch. Now, remember this one, like I said, 60 kilometers up over the South China Sea, and I think it was a Mach 5. So getting closer and closer. Now, I believe some of this has been from a submarine launch too. So pay close attention. Again, these guys are just flying the ointment when you got the big boys on the scene, China and Russia, that are actually really the bigger threat. But this is a guy that'll pop one off on us, and nobody sees it coming because we're too busy focused on China and Russia. All right. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about China. We talked about Russia and the stuff going on, the problems they're having. But this one here, Gordon Chang tells Newsmax something is terribly wrong in China. I would agree with that, but there was a lot of talk about a coup. As you see over here, rumors about a Chinese coup. We saw this lady here posting stuff where we had these vehicles that were coming in. These were actually kind of like their MRAPs, stretched for 80 kilometers, all headed to the capital. But I will say, I don't think that is the case. They talk about the potential that he may be in lockdown just because of the COVID aspect of it. But I will tell you, the real thing that's going on over here, there was also talk, before we get into the real thing here, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there was talk that the airports were shut down and a bunch of other different things going on. And I will say this much, okay? That is not uncommon. If we get over here to the board and we look at the amount of cancellations in China, notice China Eastern is the number one airline with cancellations. It's like that every time I've looked at it. Notice here that get away from Jakarta. That's actually new on the board, but I say new. New is a number one on the board. Typically, we do see Zhejiang, or yeah, maybe I pronounced that right. I don't know. And Shanghai, Beijing. These guys are always at the top of the board in terms of cancellations from just from a flight perspective. Okay, so and this is commercial, by the way. So I just don't think there was a lot to that. I think they read the board and probably thought, oh, this is just added to the data. Here's what is really going on over there. In China, the home buyers are occupying their rotting, unfinished properties. Yeah, this is kind of the reality of it. We've talked about Evergrande, the fact that that company, the largest real estate company, it's 26.9% of the China GDP, and it has collapsed. It's defaulted on all of its payouts. And what happens in China, their home buying process is different than ours. They basically pay for a home, and then they move into it after the fact, and it's got to be built, right? And so they'll pay for it, they'll go out and build it. Well, what's happened is these home manufacturers or home builders um, are defaulting on their loans. They're not able to complete the builds, and it's taken them anywhere from 2 to 5 years to build a house. And so these people are continuing to pay because the loan payment is due, and they don't move in. Where in the United States, we pay for a house, we get the financing in play, but we don't close on the house until the house is done. It's different over there. They close on it and then they wait for it to be built. And again, these people are moving into houses that are incomplete. This is just a sign of the things that are happening over there, but that's going to be your collapse. I think that's what we're witnessing. Now, remember the other day we talked about FedEx is saying, hey, they've got a massive drop off. They're looking at fourth quarter earnings to be revised because the supply chain is slowing down considerably, and it's a lot. A lot of it is due to the stuff that's coming in from China or not coming in from China. As I've shown you from the freight perspective, the sea freight perspective, sorry, you can see it is dropped off. It's plummeted actually. The stuff is not coming in. It's why our shelves are starting to go bare. It's why Walmart is canceling orders because they can't get the stuff in. They're getting it off the books to the tune of $1 billion or something. But FedEx is the same way, and so is Amazon. These are all uh, key indicators that or signs that the economy is starting to falter big time. Okay. The reason I say that is because from the ship's perspective, that's kind of a long lead look when things are starting to kind of waffle a little bit. But when you look at the air freight aspect of it, and that is immediate, right? That's it's the span for supply is significantly shorter on air freight than it is on ship, right? Ship takes about 3, maybe 4 weeks to get here. This stuff is overnight, and so when you start to see that, that means we're getting very close to seeing shelves emptying out on the stuff that we buy from China. And again, this is just another indicator that things are getting ready to go really south. I imagine Christmas is going to be pretty rough in terms of getting stuff from these Amazon and um, Walmart, okay, and the like. All right, let's look at the sea traffic. Now we were talking a little while ago about the stuff that was going on. This is actually going into the Chesapeake Bay. These are ships waiting to get into Norfolk, and this is where we've been watching the P3s come across on a regular basis. The threat, as we talked about in the past, are Club Ks, right? And so I think that's why the Q4 drones are running this route, and I think that's why these P3s, P8s are out here, the sub hunters, because they're looking very closely at these ships and anything coming in as a surprise attack kind of event. Um, Again, if you're not familiar with the Club K, it's a Russian missile system that is disguised in a sea container. They can put them on the cargo ships and park right off your shore. You don't even know it because they look just like a regular cargo ship. And then all of a sudden they get activated and they launch, and their strike time is minutes compared to the long ones, and they can be, and when I say long ones, I'm talking about stuff that comes inbound from Russia, where we see it coming and have a chance to respond. Club K's, not so much. This is they launch out and from a uh, Washington D.C. perspective. If they decided to take that out, if they're parked right here, that is minutes, so like probably under 5-6 minutes until their time on target from launch. Okay, they can be nuclear, they can be conventional, they can be biological or chemical. It's whatever is loaded into these. So again, it's just a data point, but definitely a concern. All right. Now, let's take a breath. Let's get over here as I bump my mic. Sorry about that. Let's look at bigs. Extremely active, and I think this is the precursor we've been waiting for to indicate we are very, very close to going to war. We watched Pepper for a while, where we were getting the numbers up for NATO from 100,000 to 300,000, and that's total in the region. But this is an indicator that they are definitely bumping up those numbers very quickly and rapidly. Look at the aircraft leaving the area. This is Western Global. That's an MD-11, and that's headed to comes in from Ohio. Sorry, this is inbound arrivals. Omni Air, Atlas Air, Allegiant Air, National Cargo, and Atlas Air. So these are all heavy lifts. If we go look at the board from this perspective, you can see just in the last, actually, this is the weekend. Just take a look at these that have come in over the weekend right here. These are all these are wide body, heavy lifts for the most part. Little A320, 330, sorry, 200s. But this is 747. That's Sun Country, all right, coming in from Minneapolis. Minneapolis. Again, I'm either adding letters or taking them out. And apologize. I know it's cringeworthy for those folks that live there to hear me say it. You're probably like, oh, and he just learned to pronunciate. Okay, but let's look at the outbounds. All right, here we go. We've got Omni Air headed to Fort Worth Alliance. We'll see which direction these head. This one's just going straight in. It's a 747-400 headed to Frankfurt. Another Atlas Air. That's Atlas Air. This one is headed to Marana, Arizona. Don't know what is there, but we'll see where it goes. That is Allegiant headed to Indianapolis. This is National Cargo headed to Cleveland. And then this is Atlas Air headed to Baltimore. Now, one of two things. We're either pre-positioning troops here domestically in the United States, or these guys are going to, they're headed into those regions to be actually exfilled out of the country. So we'll continue to watch it, but a significant uptick on troop movement and equipment and assets coming out of Biggs Army Airfield. These are the ones that are actually scheduled en route still to arrive that are going to be added to this board. So busiest we've seen ever since we've been watching this. Okay. All right. Now over here to Ramstein. We're going to be looking for in the next day or two for these assets to start showing up in Ramstein. If they don't show up, one of two things. Those were either troops that were being sent back to the home bases after being deployed, which I don't see that. I don't think that's the case. Or they are being deployed domestically as we start to get closer to the election stuff going on. Okay. So, again, we'll pay close attention to that. But this, if we look at what's inbound, what do we have here? That is, I don't know, that's a French Army. Interesting. Okay, that's going to be a Navy logistics bird right here coming inbound, and a camber flight coming in from Baltimore, Washington. That's a 777-200. Looks like that's on the arrival board, and then on departure, we've got this one headed into Turkey. And then we've got a reach that looks to be Catania. So those are the only ones on there right now. So we're looking for an uptick here. That would be an indicator that those troops movements we saw at Biggs Army Airfield are actually going across to one of the drinks. We'll look over here at this side too. This is Anderson and Guam. As you can see, there is an active TFR, security TFR over the region. We've got a Navy coming inbound, another reach coming inbound, and then that reach is going to Saipan. And I don't see the Navy bird anywhere on here. But if we get into arrivals over here, let's see if we've got anything. Got camber flights, so that's troops, that's troops, That's troops, and that is a air refueler. Okay. Um, okay. Or that could, yeah, be air refueler, because if that was a cargo carrier, which it does have multi-purpose. It could go either as cargo or a refueler or both. But when it is carrying cargo, it goes in as the reach call sign, all right, because it's moving cargo and not air refueling. So Tora 53 means it's air refueler. So that's your arrival board at Guam, Anderson. Again, pretty active, but not as active as things are in Europe. And then this is in Japan. This is actually Awakuni, Japan. This is going to be one of the military bases there, U.S. wise. We are watching. I don't see anything on here that would indicate that we've got troops coming into that region there. Now, let me look over here and see. Yeah, this does change things a little bit. These are 737. Who is that? What airline is that? ANA Wings. Okay. That's actually Japan stuff. So, but that's a lot of 737s. And that is the Marine Corps Air Station. So, coming in from Tokyo. Interesting. Okay. I don't really know what to make of that because I'm not super familiar with that military base. But here's another one here in Japan. And again, you can see we got some Navy stuff coming inbound. Not seeing anything else on the arrival departure board. So, just other than Navy logistics birds, quite a few of those. But those could just be regular supply flights. Okay. And then here are your camera flights for today. We've got an MD-11, which more than likely that is a FedEx bird. And then we've got this one here, B767-300. And looks like one of them is near Kassala. The other left out of Sofia. Sofia is that the one base that we talk about. That's right here. But Africa. We did see, actually, before I went live, I had a couple flights flying down here into Africa. So it looks like we're starting to put some troops into Africa, which is very interesting. And we are so spread out all over the world. Not good. Good at all. Now, these are your Omni Airs coming inbound. More than likely, notice this one's coming to Biggs, coming out of John Glenn in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, 777-200. And then this one's coming out of Muhammad Ali in Louisville, Kentucky, or Louisville. And yeah, and that's coming into Perot Field. So these could be empty. They could have troops on them coming in to be exfilled from Biggs Army Airfield. So we'll continue to watch that. But that's going to be your Omni flights. More than likely, those are troop related. And then this is going to be your Brits. Now, we did have one that just it's coming across. You'll notice this one's headed down to El Centro Naval Airfield. So again, remember, we've been watching air refuelers and stuff going on in this general area, which would indicate some fighters in that area. I'm wondering if there is something going on this side of the border that they've got eyes on. Again, wouldn't surprise me. But I will tell you, in all my time of watching the flights coming down from an air refueler perspective, I haven't seen them along the border here. So unless there's stuff here in Yuma, et cetera. But the location where they're heading is not. And so, again, a little bit of a concern. But you can see Brits are kind of spread out as well. They've got a lot of flights headed down here into the Ethiopia range. And then, of course, we got stuff running in and out of Europe and the Middle East. As always, very active. Again, you can see the board. We will notice another, again, a large uptick, just like we're seeing from the U.S. as we watch Biggs Army Airfield. That is a big wave of troops, okay? Very big wave. And then the Ruskies, this one landed 1 hour, 13 minutes ago, and looks like it came out of Azerbaijan. I don't know why, it just doesn't roll off the tongue for me, man. It just comes out as word salad. But yet, I can watch, Jack Ryan and see him talking about it all the time, and it just rolls right out. But when I go to read it and pronounce it, it just ain't happening, folks. And I apologize for the word salad there. But looks like that one rolled out of this area. Of course, we know Pelosi and Bob Marley were just here in Armenia. We know there's some border conflict going on between these two countries right here. And so it looks like somebody's coming down here to pay a quick visit and headed back to Moscow. So Again, that's going to be your Ruski activity. And then over here to the Navy logistics, the reason I'm pointing this out, we do see them move across the United States quite frequently, but we do have some uptick in activity headed across the drink. Most of their stuff is moved by ship, but from time to time, just like everybody else, they need it quicker or faster. They'll put it on one of these little aircraft, and most of these are 737 aircraft, which is a smaller platform for moving stuff. So, okay. Last up is going to be the stuff that we have going on here south of the border. It looks like we continue to export people out of the country, which is a good sign. That's what we want to see. A plane just popped on the board here. Probably doesn't say where it's headed, but we got 2 flights here. Notice those are headed down, look like into Valley. So again, we see them coming off with shackles on, and we see them going south out of the country, which is that's good news for us. So, all right, we'll do a quick palate cleanser. I know I threw a lot of data at you. I know we blew through our 30-minute mark, but just a little humor for us as we kind of exit this, because this stuff is it's getting a little rough to watch. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I know even for myself, there's times where I'm just watching this stuff and thinking, man, this is going to be, we're getting very, very close, folks. You can just see everybody jockeying position. And like I said, I think if Trump was in office, this wouldn't be happening. It is because we have such a weak leader and a weak administration that seem to be just kind of feeding this machine. And of course, we got the deep state out there doing their thing, right? So, all right, here's your palate cleanser for you. You guys may remember some of the photos that went around. I just wanted to put these out. It's a good laugh. You can see people. This is during when we were all in lockdown and we were actually able to come out, but you can see some of the folks that there was a ton of stuff coming out around then. But I ran across this on my phone and I thought, like I said yesterday in my Monkey Minute, you just can't fix stupid. These are things that just make you just kind of kick back and laugh and go, wow, this is the world we live in, man. There just seems to be these people just come out of the woodwork. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it. I hope you got a lot out of this. Like I said, I know I threw a lot of data at you, but we've got a lot of things happening right now, and it's good for us to kind of filter through it. For those that were waiting for the sky to fall on September 24th, like I told you, and as soon as I heard it, date setters, if you see people doing it, just stay away from them, because all you're doing is causing yourself angst, and it's just not good for you. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it. You guys be safe out there. Keep that powder dry. Stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworksus.com.